This was horrible. A Manhattan doorman, while cleaning the front steps to his building, slipped and fell on icy, slippery steps the day after a snowstorm, causing him to fall into a window right by the front door, slashing his throat, causing him to die. Let's look at it to see who, if anyone, is responsible for those actions. Come join me for a moment as I share with you some great information. Hi, I'm Gerry Oginski. I'm a New York medical malpractice and personal injury attorney. So now I'm reading this. This was on the front cover of the New York Post. This was the day after a snowstorm here in New York. This was an awful February snowstorm. It dumped about 12 to 18 inches of snow throughout the New York greater metropolitan area. So now this doorman is cleaning off the steps. It's snowing, it's icy, it's windy, it's slippery. And now he slips on the steps, falls into a plate glass window that's right next to the front door, and now slashes his throat on the glass and ultimately dies. Who, if anyone, is responsible for that incident? Well, let's go back for a moment. This guy was an employee. He's working for the building management. It's his job, it's his responsibility to keep the steps leading up to the building free and clear of any obstructions, free and clear of any garbage, of snow, of ice. And that's what he did every time it would snow. He'd shovel it off, he'd sweep it away, and now he'd put down salt or sand to make sure that nobody would get hurt going up and down the stairs, right? So now in the course of doing that, in the course of his cleaning duties, he now falls. Who's responsible for that? You can argue that that would be a workers' compensation claim because he gets injured on the job. It's not a situation where somebody from outside the building is coming in, or somebody who lives in the building is coming in or out, and now they slip on something and they fall and get injured. Here it's a different story. Here is the employee who's doing part of his job duties, and in the course of those job duties, now he suffers an injury. He slips and falls. Now that's not the worst part. The worst part is he just happened to fall into the plate glass window. Is somebody negligent? Is somebody careless for what went on here? There is the possibility that this doorman might have been careless himself. Maybe in the way that he swept off the snow and ice. Maybe the way he put down the salt or sand. I don't know. It wasn't described in the article. So I'm going to leave that aside for now. But now his head goes right into the plate glass window because of the way in which he fell. And as unfortunate as that is, now the sharp shards of glass happened to cut him at his throat and he bled to death. That's awful. That's horrible. But who, if anyone, is legally responsible? Well, in this instance, I believe this would all be covered under workers' compensation, and that's something that I do not handle. So if you get injured in the course of your employment, you should know. I don't handle that type of case. I know some great attorneys who do, and I'd be happy to refer you to them. But let's look at it from the standpoint of a visitor to the building. Let's say it was a visitor who was now coming in to visit someone in the building, and they're walking down the steps, and now they get to the middle of the steps and they slip on ice, and now as they're getting down to the bottom, their head goes through the plate glass window. Now they get cut in the throat and ultimately die. Who, if anyone, is responsible, legally responsible? Is it the person who's entering the building? Maybe they weren't careful enough going down the steps? Or is it the employee and the owner and manager of the building for not properly clearing the snow and ice in a timely manner? In order to answer that question, we would need to know, how did this doorman go about cleaning the ice from the steps? What was his duty? What was his responsibility that he was told he had to do when it snowed? How often did he have to clear the steps of snow? How often did he put down salt? How often did he put down sand? When would he do it? Would he put up warning signs? Or did he put up signs saying wet steps or icy steps? Did he put up any cones to tell people who were coming and going that this was a dangerous or icy scenario? All of those facts will help determine who, if anyone, is legally responsible for this horrible tragedy. That's in the scenario of an outsider coming in to visit, as opposed to somebody who's working on the job as a doorman, and part of his duties are to clean and sweep the steps of any snow and ice and debris. So why do I share this information with you? I share it with you just to give you an inside look at what happens in these snow and ice cases, especially in this horrible tragedy that occurred in Manhattan when this doorman unfortunately slipped on the ice, fell, hit his head into a plate glass window, causing him to cut his neck and ultimately die. I realize you have questions or concerns about your own matter. Well, if your matter did happen here in New York and you're thinking about bringing a lawsuit, but haven't done so yet because you still have questions that need to be answered, what I encourage you to do is pick up the phone and call me. I can answer your legal questions. This is something I do every single day, and I'd love to chat with you. You can reach me at 516-487-8207 or by email at Gerry, Gerry, at Oginski-law.com. That's it for today's video. I'm Gerry Oginski. Have a wonderful day.